students, myself, Ms. Akanksha Sangdagurule, working as an assistant professor in the Department of Chemistry, KTHM College, Nasik. So students, in the today's lecture, we are going to study the topic chemical bonding, which is the most important topic in the inorganic chemistry. So let's start with the topic. So in the today's lecture, we are going to see some topics. Let's discuss the session agenda. So first, in the today's lecture, we are going to study what are the bonds. After that, we are going to study the types of bond. So there are four types of bond basically. The first is ionic bond, next is covalent bond, another one is a coordinate bond, the last one is a metallic bond. That all bonds we are going to discuss in the today's lecture. The third type is, or the third point is valence bond theory that we are going to study. In the valence bond theory, first it was developed by the scientist Hitler and London in 1927, and after Hitler and London that theory was extended by the Pauling and Slater in 1931. So both the postulates we are going to study for Hitler and London as well as for Pauling's and Slater theory. After that we are going to study the concept of hybridization. In the concept of hybridization, we are going to study first of all what is hybridization. After that we are going to study what is the need of hybridization and what are the types of hybridization that are going to be studied or that molecule acquire for forming the molecule. Isn't it? So that all things we are going to study in the today's lecture. So first of all, let's start with our first point, that is bond. So students, in the chemical compounds, it is made up of different types of molecules, where the molecules are made up of atoms, and those atoms are attached to each other with a various force of attraction. The force by which the atoms in the molecules are bound to each other is known as a chemical bond. The definition of bond is that the electrostatic force of attraction by which the atoms are attached to each other in a molecule or in an element is known as a bond. So basically the bond is of four types. First is ionic bond, which is also known as a electrovalent bond. The next is covalent bond, which is known as electron pair bond. The next is coordinate bond, which is also known as dative bond. And the last one is metallic bond. So first of all, we are going to discuss one by one what is an ionic bond. So various atoms of same or different element are attached to each other by various bonds. So when the ionic bond is formed, there is a complete loss or gain of electron by one atom to the another. In this type of bond, what happens is that one atom donates an electron to the another atom, which the another atom gains it and forms an ionic bond. So, before going to the bond, we must know the octet rule. What is this octet rule? We know that in a periodic table, there is one family, that is the inert gases. So, that inert gases have no tendency to form a compound or to form a bond. Why is it so? It is because of the outermost orbital of the atom of the inert gases are completely filled. That is, in the outermost shell, there are 8 electrons present in that atom. So it is also known as the octet rule. So what is that octet rule? We will look after it. Octet rule. What does this octet rule tells us? Octet rule is also known as the 8 electronic rule. So that octet rule tells us that any of the atom shares, lose or gain the electron to complete its electronic configuration. That means what? Any of the atom loses or shares or gain the electron. For what purpose? The purpose is that to attain a stable electronic configuration. That means what? To attain the inert gas configuration near to it. That means what? Hydrogen will try to attain the configuration of helium. Carbon, nitrogen, fluorine will try to attain the electronic configuration of neon. Similarly, that of argon, whatever it may be, all atom always tends to complete its electronic configuration by just sharing, losing or gaining the electron. The ultimate aim of that atom is to complete its electronic configuration. That is nothing but the octet rule. So each and every element tries to attain the octet configuration or tries to have the 8 electrons in the outermost orbit. So when we are going to talk, so let's discuss the example of formation of NaCl. In the NaCl, the Na has electronic or the atomic number as 11. So in its, what is there? It has one extra electron which is unpaired electron. That is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. So just by losing one electron, that is it goes in a Na plus form, so that when it loses the one electron, it has the atomic number, it has the 10 electrons in its outermost orbit. So when there is a 10 electron in its outermost orbit, it completes the octet. That means it attains the configuration of neon, isn't it? Similarly, the atomic number of chlorine is 17. So chlorine, by accepting one electron, attains the configuration of, that means there will be the 18 electron. So it will attain the configuration of argon. That means when Na will lose one electron, it will attain the inert gas configuration, while the chlorine by accepting one electron attains the inert gas configuration. So when Na plus Cl minus will form NaCl. That means in the NaCl there is a ionic bond. The main criteria for formation of ionic bond is that the two atoms must have large difference in their electronegativity. What is the criteria? Large difference in the electronegativity. So their electronegativity of the two atoms must differ to the large extent, isn't it? So this was all about the ionic bond. Ionic bond is nothing but the electrostatic force of attraction by which atom forms a molecule by losing or by gaining an electron. That means there is a complete transfer of electron during the formation of ionic bond. The next point is the second bond, that is a covalent bond. Now let's start to talk about the electronegativity of the atom. As we have discussed in the ionic bond, that there must be the large difference in the electronegativity. Then and then only it will form a ionic bond. But talking about the covalent bond, there should not be any difference between the electronegativity between two atoms. So same atom may form the covalent bond, whereas the atoms having less difference in their electronegativity will form a covalent bond. So first of all, the thing is that electronegativity. The next, the covalent bond is always formed by the sharing of electrons. That means what? One atom will share its one electron, another atom will share its one electron, and when the both electron will come together, then and then only the covalent bond will be formed. That means what? The bond is formed by sharing of electron. As we have talked about the ionic bond, there is a complete transfer of electron from one atom to another atom. But in the covalent bond, there is just a sharing of electron during the formation of covalent bond. So the covalent bond is the electrostatic force of attraction between the two atoms when there is a sharing of electron between the two atoms. Now let's take the example of chlorine. So in the chlorine, as we have studied, there is 7 outermost electrons in the chlorine. That means what? This is like this, 1 electron is this, plus chlorine, that these dots are nothing but the 7 outermost electron. So when chlorine will form its element, what will happen? These 2 electrons are nothing but the share. That means this chlorine will share 1 electron, this chlorine will share another electron to form a covalent bond. Same is for the oxygen. Or we can study for the carbon. We know that in the outermost configuration, there are 4 electrons. So this 4 electron will react with the 4 hydrogen atoms. The hydrogen atom have 1 electron in its outermost shell. So therefore, it will form like this. That means what? 1 carbon atom will form a bond with 4 hydrogen atoms. So when this bond is shown by dot and cross pattern, then the bond is shown by the dash, that is like this. These notations are known as dash and dot notation for denoting the covalent bond. So in the covalent bond, we know that the bond is formed by the sharing of electrons. Is it clear? The next bond is coordinate bond. So what is this coordinate bond? The coordinate bond is a special type of covalent bond. That means what? It is nothing but the covalent bond. But during the formation of coordinate bond, the 2 electrons are always shared by only 1 atom. That means as we have studied in the covalent bond, that 1 electron is shared by the 1 atom, another electron is shared by the another atom. But in the coordinate bond, the electron pair is shared by the 1 atom only. So therefore, this bond is also known as a dative bond. So in this, the 1 atom which donates the electron pair is known as a donor, while the one which accepts that electron is known as a acceptor. So next point is that the electronegativity difference will not matter for the coordinate bond. The next is that coordinate bond is always shown by the arrow. What is this arrow implies? Arrow implies that the one is a donor atom and the next is an acceptor atom. The coordinate bond is formed when the atom has the lone pair of electron, that is 2 electrons which are unbonded or non-bonded electrons. When this non-bonded electron pair is shared with some of the atom which requires 2 electrons to complete its octet, then the coordinate bond is formed. So here we can take an example of ammonia. That is, in nitrogen there are 2 electron present, which is a lone pair of electron, and then it forms or it shares that 2 electrons which is non-bonded electrons with the hydrogen. So hydrogen requires only 2 electrons to form to get a helium configuration. That means it will accept that 2 electrons and it will form a stable electronic configuration. So this is nothing but the coordinate bond. The next is metallic bond. The next is metallic bond. What is this metallic bond? Metallic bonds are always present in a metal. So when we take a piece of metal, it is consists of many atoms of that respective metals. So when we are talking about that metal, we cannot say that it is an ionic bond, because the two atoms are of same elements, isn't it? For example, we are talking about the copper. So copper is binded to the copper, copper is binded to the another copper. So in the copper or in the metal, there will be not ionic bond. Why it will not be ionic bond? Because to form an ionic bond, there requires that large difference in electronegativity, which is not. So therefore it will not show the ionic bond. The next is a covalent bond. So in the covalent bond, there is a sharing of electron. But for sharing some electron, all the electronic configuration of all the metal atoms will be same. So the special type of bond by which the metals are bonded to each other is known as a metallic bond. In this metallic bond, the one unpaired electron or which unpaired electron that goes into the orbitals of another metals having the same orbit. That means what? The one metal is there, another metal is there, both are having same electronic configuration, both are having same orbital energy, both are having all the nature is same. So that electron will move to another orbit, will move to another next orbit, isn't it? So when the metallic bond is there, the metallic bond is an electrostatic force of attraction between the metal and its electron moving within the sphere, within that crystal sphere. This is nothing but the metallic bond. So students, up to now we have studied 4 types of bond. First is a ionic bond, which is formed by complete transfer of electron. The next is a covalent bond, which is formed by sharing of electron. Coordinate bond, which is formed by sharing of electron by only one atom. And the next is a metallic bond. This type of bond is found in only the metals, which is a force of attraction between the metal and the electron moving in another orbit within its sphere. So these were all about the types of bond. Besides this bond, there are also some special cases of bond, such as a hydrogen bonding, van der Waals forces. But these are not the main types of bond. These are just some where we can found the hydrogen bonding. This is just an attraction between the electropositive and electronegative atom. Is it clear? So now, next topic is valence bond theory. Now let's start with the valence bond theory. The valence bond theory is also known as a Hitler-London theory. Hitler and London has given the proper explanation of why the hydrogen molecule is more stable than the individual hydrogen atom. So due to that explanation, this theory has a lot of importance in the field of chemical bonding. This theory was further extended by the scientist Pauling and Slater in 1931, and Hitler and London has given this theory in 1927. So let's see the point of valence bond theory. So what are the points of valence bond theory? According to the valence bond theory, the bonds are formed only when there is an unpaired electron present in the atom. The first point is that there is only the requirement is that there must be one unpaired electron present in the atom to form a bond. Is it clear? The next point is that two electrons which are going to combine with each other must have the opposite spin. That means they must have the unpaired electron plus they must have the opposite spin. The next point is that when there is a formation of bond, the spin gets neutralized. That means one will have upper spin, one will have the lower spin or downward spin. And when their spin effect will be neutralized, then and then will be the bond will be get formed. The next point is that the net combination or overlapping of the orbital results in the attraction. When it results into the attraction, the total energy gets decreased and bond gets formed. Why is it that the total energy gets decreased? We know that when the energy is minimum, stability is maximum. When the energy is maximum, stability is minimum. Similarly, when the net result is attraction, that the two atoms will attract each other, then the total energy will get decreased and the bond will be formed. But when the net result will be repulsion, the total energy will get decreased and the bond will not be formed. These are nothing but the points of valence bond theory, that to form a bond, atoms must require the unpaired electron. Next, that atoms or that electron must have the opposite spin. The next is that the total, when the bond is formed, the total spin gets neutralized. The next is that the net result is attraction, the total energy gets decreased, bond gets formed. When the net result is repulsion, total energy gets increased and the bond does not form. Is it clear? But just thinking about this electron or just thinking about their spin, we must consider what will be the geometry, what will be the shape, or how the bonds are formed, how will be the nature of bond. This explanation was not given by Hitler and London. So further, this theory was extended by Pauling and Slater. So what is the opinion of Pauling and Slater? According to Pauling and Slater, the atomic orbitals must overlap with each other. As we have shown that this is one atomic orbital, this is the another atomic orbital. So as to form a bond, these two atomic orbitals must overlap with each other. So when they will overlap, the overlap is only when they will have an unpaired electron with opposite spin. So the first point is that there must be the complete overlap. There must be the overlap. The overlap must be between the unpaired electron having the opposite spin. The next thing is that there will never be the complete overlapping of the two orbitals. Why is it so? This is because there are nucleus present in the center of atom, and nucleus are always the positively charged. When there is a complete overlapping of orbital, there is a complete repulsion between the positively charged nucleus. So, to avoid this repulsion between the positively charged nucleus, there is only a partial overlapping of orbitals. Next is, more is the overlapping, stronger is the bond. More is the overlapping, stronger is the bond. Is it clear? The next point is that the number of bond formed is equal to nothing but the number of electrons, unpaired electron present in that electron. So due to the overlapping of orbital, the electron density increases for that atom, and there is more attraction of nucleus to attract that shared electron pair. So stronger will be the bond. So as we have studying in the Pauling-Slater theory, that to formation of bond there must be the overlapping of orbital. The complete overlapping of orbital is not possible. This is because the repulsion between the nucleus. Due to the electron density, there is an attraction between the nucleus and that electron pairs. After that, the number of bond formed is equal to nothing but the number of unpaired electron present in that. The next and the last point is that whatever the orbitals which are overlapping with each other, they will have some direction. That we know that S orbital is spherical in shape, P orbital is dumbbell in shape. If we are talking about the px orbital, it is along the x-axis, py orbital which is along the y-axis, pz orbital which is the z-axis. So each orbit has a different direction. So therefore, the covalent bond will also has a directional property. Is it clear? So the next point is hybridization. What is a hybridization? Hybridization is nothing but the mixing and recasting of the atomic orbital to form a same number of atomic orbital having same energy is known as hybridization. And the orbitals are known as a hybrid orbitals. Why we need to study the hybridization? So according to the valence bond theory, we know that there must be the presence of unpaired electron. We know that there must be the presence of overlapping of atomic orbital and so on. But what about the geometry of the molecule? What about the shape of that molecule? Or what about the nature of bonding of that molecule? Orientation. These all things were not given by the valence bond theory. So now we need to study the hybridization. Why is it so? According to the valence bond theory, the valency of any atom is nothing but the unpaired electron present in its outermost orbit. Now let us take an example of beryllium, boron and carbon. So the electronic configuration of beryllium is 1s2, 2s2, 2p, 0. The electronic configuration of boron is 1s2, 2s2 and 2p, 1. Similarly, that of carbon is 1s2, 2s2, 2p, 2. Now, according to the valence bond theory, or according to up to the theory that we have learned, that number of unpaired electron present in the outermost orbit is its valency. That means that much bond it will form. Now, talking about this, what does it tell us? That is, there is a zero valency. Talking about the boron, it is having the valency 1. Or talking about the carbon, their valency is 2. But is it so? There are the examples are like that. There is a compound BeH2, or we also know there is a compound of BF3. We also know there is a compound that methane CH4. So looking towards these compounds or this molecule, we come to know that it will showing valency as a 2. It is showing the valency of 3. It is showing the valency of 4. So here our definition is going wrong, that the number of unpaired electron present in the outermost orbit is its valency. But there is no any explanation for this. Why this valency is going to change to 2, 3 and 4. So to study this, the valency or covalency of any atom, we need to study the concept of hybridization. This is one point. The next is the shape and geometry. Now talking about the shape and geometry. So we will take an example of formation of water molecule, H2O. Everyone knows the H2O. So during the formation of H2O, what happens? The 1p orbital of oxygen overlaps with the hydrogen, isn't it? This is nothing but the overlapping. So it was expected that the p orbital is a dumbbell shape which is along the x-axis. So when this bond is getting formed, that bond angle must be 180 degree, isn't it? Because there is overlapping of p orbital and s orbital. P orbital is a dumbbell shape along the x-axis. So there must be the angle of 180 degree. But it is not like that. The information that we have got, the angle is of 104 degree and 28 minutes. So this explanation was also not given by the valence bond theory. And the shape was not linear, but the shape was V shape. So why this happens? Why the bond angle is not 180 degree? Why it is only 104 degree? So This needs an explanation, and for this explanation, we need the concept of studying the hybridization. So now we will again move towards the definition of hybridization. Hybridization is the mixing and recasting. Recasting means redistribution. So first the atomic orbitals are mixed, and the next it is again redistributed in the hybrid orbitals, where they forms a bond with the another atom orbitals, and this is the concept of hybridization. Is it clear? So when there is a hybridization, always there is a mixing of orbitals. When the new hybrid orbitals are formed, they are not like this. They will not have the proper dumbbell shape. Their one lobe will be large and the another lobe will be smaller. Why is it so? Because the more electron density is attracted towards the one of the lobe, so that the strong bond would be formed. The hybrid orbitals, the number of orbitals which are getting mixed for the formation of hybrid orbital, that much number of hybrid orbitals are only formed. That means two orbitals are getting mixed, then only 2 hybrid orbitals will be formed. If 3 orbitals are getting mixed, 3 hybrid orbitals will be formed. That means the number of orbitals getting mixed for the formation of hybrid orbitals, that much hybrid orbitals will be formed. The next is, for forming the hybrid orbital, they must have the same energy. Is it clear? The next is, their electron density will be shifted to one lobe and another lobe will be the smaller. Why? Due to the formation of stronger bonding. So there is various hybridization. We will see one by one. First is a sp hybridization. Next is sp2 hybridization. Next is sp3 hybridization. After that we are going to study sp2d hybridization. Next is dsp3 hybridization or sp3d hybridization, and the next is dsp3 hybridization or sp3d2 hybridization. All one by one we are going to study. So let's start with the first is a sp hybridization. So we are going to study the sp hybridization. So sp hybridization is the mixing and recasting of one s orbital and another p orbital to form the 2 hybrid orbitals. The shape of sp hybridization is always linear. So now take an example of beryllium. The electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p, 0. And we will take an example of hydrogen, that is 1s1. So when present in a ground state, that is 1s2, 2s2 and is 2p. In 1s there are 2 electrons, in 2s2 there is 2 electrons. This is a ground state electronic configuration. So when it will form a hybrid orbitals, what it will do? So 1s2 will be C, 2s2 will shift its 1 electron to the p orbital, that is 2s1, 2p1. So this is nothing but the sp hybridization. sp hybridization. That means 2 unpaired electron we are getting, and when this s orbital will combine with the 1 p orbital, it will form what? A 2 hybrid orbital. It will be like this. This is its lobe, this is positive, this is negative. The another one will be like this, which is positive, negative. This is the sp hybrid orbitals. So when these sp hybrid orbitals having 1 electron in one and another electron in another lobe. So after that, this hydrogen will share its 1 electron with the sp hybrid orbital. So it will have the linear geometry. and the bond angle will be 180 degree. Is it clear? This is for the sp hybridization. The next is sp2 hybridization. So in this hybridization, there is a mixing and recasting of one s orbital and two p orbitals. That is a sp2 hybridization. So here we will take an example of boron. So electronic configuration of boron is 1s2, 2s2, 2p1. And when it forms the bond with the fluorine, having the electronic configuration as 1s2, 1s2, 2s2, 2p5. The next is ground state electronic configuration of this boron. That is 1s2, 2s2, 2p. So there are two electrons. There is also two electron and one electron here. So this is nothing but the ground state electronic configuration. So when it moves towards the excited state, what happens? This one electron gets shifted to this p orbital. That means like this. There are two electrons in 1s, one electron in 2s and two electrons in a 2p orbital. 1s, 2s, 2p. This is nothing but the sp2 hybrid orbitals. Hybrid orbitals. As we have said in the definition, it is the combination of one s orbital, one and two p orbitals. Here I will show you like this. This is a s orbital, this is px orbital, this is a py orbital. So when px, py orbital gets combined, it forms the three hybrid orbitals, and the shape of these three hybrid orbitals are like this. Again, the one lobe is greater, another lobe is smaller. This is a smaller lobe. This is a greater lobe, this is a smaller lobe. That means these are the three hybrid sp2 orbitals. And when the fluorine shares one electron with this, fluorine electron is also in a p orbital. That means like this. It shares like this. This is nothing but the sharing. So the angle between this is 120 degree. That is, its geometry is trigonal planar geometry. So whenever there is an sp2 hybridization, the geometry is always trigonal planar geometry. The next we are going to see for the sp3 hybridization. The next is sp3 hybridization. In the sp3 hybridization, there is a mixing and recasting of one s orbital and three p orbital. The most common example of this is MnCl4. The Mn, that is manganese, having atomic number 25, has an electronic configuration of argon 4s2 3d5. The next is a chlorine, which has the electronic configuration neon 3s2 3p5. So when this Mn goes into Mn2 plus states, when it goes into Mn2 plus state, that means what? It donates 2 electrons, or the 2 electrons are removed. Then the electronic configuration of it becomes like this. 4s, after that come 4p, which is having 0 electrons, and the next is 3d5. There are 5 electrons in it. So this 1s and 3p orbitals forms a sp3 hybrid orbital. Now talking about its shape. There is a mixing of one s orbital plus one px orbital another py orbital, the next is pz orbital. So that means in the process of mixing there are 4 orbitals. So there will be 4 hybrid orbitals. So when this undergoes the hybridization, it forms like this. That means this shape is a tetrahedral geometry. The angle between them is 109 and 28 minutes. Angle is 109 and 28, 109 degree and 28 minutes. So the geometry is tetrahedral geometry. Such a type of geometry is also seen in various compounds such as methane, CCl4. So this sp3 hybridization is nothing but the mixing of one s orbital and 3 p orbitals. This is about the sp hybridization. So student, here we will stop. Thank you.